Mataji, Hare Krishna, you're on mute, Mataji. Sorry, I think maybe he must have got a call.
Hare Krishna. Yes. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 6, Text 35. Vidya tapo yoga patham astitam tam adishwaram charantam vishwasuhridam vatsalya lokamangalam. The demigod saw Lord Shiva situated in his perfection as the master of the senses, knowledge, fruit of activities, and the path of achieving perfection. He was the friend of the entire world, and by virtue of his full affection for everyone, he was very auspicious. Purport. Lord Shiva is full of wisdom and tapasya, austerity. One who knows the modes of work is understood to be situated on the path of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One cannot serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead unless one has achieved full perfectional knowledge in the ways and means of performing devotional service. Lord Shiva is described here as Adishwara. Ishvara means controller, and Adishwara means particularly controller of the senses. Generally, our materially contaminated senses are apt to engage in sense gratificatory activities. But when a person is elevated by wisdom and austerity, the senses then become purified and they become engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Shiva is the emblem of such perfection. And therefore, in the scriptures, it is said, Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu. Lord Shiva is a Vaishnava. Lord Shiva, by his actions within this material world, teaches all conditioned souls how to engage in devotional service 24 hours a day. Therefore, he is described here as Lokamangala, good fortune personified for all conditioned souls. Shiva is called Devunka Dev, the Mahadev, but he's totally opposite of the Devas. Devas are all they also they're serving Krishna, but then they also have material sense gratification. They are little in the enjoying mood, with a lot of opulence and power and women. I mean, they have all these things, sense gratification. And opposite is Kailas. Swargaloka is in a different mood altogether, and Kailas, where this is also filled with all natural beauty. But Shiva is in the mood of, that is the perfection, complete control of the senses, knowledge, fruit of perfection as the master of the senses, knowledge, fruit of activities, and the path of achieving perfection. He was the friend of the entire world, and by virtue of his full affection for everyone, he was very auspicious. And we can say that Shiva is friend of the entire world, even Asuras. He is so affectionate even to them that if they approach him also and try to please him, he also is, that's the difference between Vishnu and Shiva. Vishnu is seeing from the spiritual point, and then Asuras, they don't go to him because Vishnu is very strict. He will not accept all their, you know, um, demands, which are totally rajasic and tamasic. But Shiva is very kind and he obliges. So they pray to him. And so he is even friend of Asuras. He gives them also a chance. So truly he is the friend of the entire world. And by virtue of his full affection for everyone, he was very auspicious. And so he's full of wisdom and tapasya, austerity. Yeah, that is why he wears all this deer skin and all that, because when you see him, he is like a Vairagi. He's always meditating. Shiva, his photo is always okay. Sometimes we also have photos of him sitting with Parvati and all that. But we also, other than that, we always have him when he's alone, he's always meditating on the Supreme Lord, situated in the path of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One cannot serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead unless one has achieved full perfectional knowledge in the ways and means of performing devotional service. So we are all only aspiring devotees. All service are also so-called service because we don't have complete knowledge in the ways and means of performing devotional service. Lord Shiva is described here as Adishwara, controller. Adishwara, particularly controller of the senses. One who has controlled the senses can rule over the whole world. Right? That the first verse of Nectar of Instruction is that. Of course, we don't have kings in our devotional life. We have gurus and so it is said that one who can control Vacho Vegam, Manasa Jihva Vegam, Udaropasta Vegam, and Manasa, I forgot that. Then Etan Vegan Sarvam Apimam Prithvim Cha Shishyat. He can become Jagat Guru simply by controlling his senses. He can control, like he can become the guru of the whole world, Jagat Guru. So that is how it is. That is why he is called the master, Swami. Someone who controls his senses is called Goswami, and he is given all respect. And he can then become that's what, anything. He can do worldwide, or even a king. There are Raja Rishis who can rule over the whole world because they have to be control of their senses. Then you can, see, that is why Modi, difference between Modi and Pappu. We have Modi who is full control of the senses. He's really like a Raja Rishi, full control of his senses. And we have someone like Pappu, and they both are standing who will be king. So we know that's how he is able to have that kind of impact on the whole world. Generally, our materially contaminated senses are apt to engage in sense gratificatory activities. But when a person is elevated by wisdom and austerity, the senses then become purified and they become engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is, we have got shortcut methods to purify our senses. Eating only prasadam, we don't starve even. We are eating prasadam and chanting Hare Krishna mantra and just listening, just by the chanting, that is our tapasya. What other tapasya we do? We don't do anything much. Chanting, if we do that very sincerely, with great attention, that tapasya is enough. That will purify us. And only eating prasadam, they become engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Shiva is the emblem of such perfection, and therefore in the scriptures it is said, Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu. Lord Shiva is a Vaishnava. Lord Shiva, by his actions within this material world, teaches all conditioned souls how to engage in devotional service 24 hours a day. Therefore, he is described here as Loka Mangala, good fortune personified for all conditioned souls. Everyone, even for devotees. Lord Shiva is very, very auspicious. Just by remembering him and praying to him, please help me, Lord Shiva. That's very auspicious. Lingam cha tapasabhishtam bhasmadanda jatajinam angena sandhyabhra rucha chandralekham cha bibritam. He was seated on a deerskin and was practicing all forms of austerity. Because his body was smeared with ashes, he looked like an evening cloud. On his hair was the sign of a half moon, a symbolic representation. Lord Shiva's symptoms of austerity are not exactly those of a Vaishnava. Lord Shiva is certainly the number one Vaishnava, but he exhibits a feature for a particular class of men who cannot follow the Vaishnava principles. That is the secret, why he is dressed like that. The Shaivites, the devotees of Lord Shiva, generally dress like Lord Shiva, and sometimes they indulge in smoking and taking intoxicant. Such practices are never accepted by the followers of Vaishnava rituals. So Shiva is very accommodating because he knows his followers are all that type. They cannot follow sattvic things. So that is why wearing all ashes and not particularly bathing every day and all that, that's not so much emphasized. Generally dress like Lord Shiva, and sometimes they indulge in smoking and taking intoxicants. Shiva accepts all of them. Such practices are never accepted by the followers of Vaishnava rituals. Vaishnavas dress neatly and nicely. So that is the difference. But we shouldn't see only the externals and think, oh, Shiva is not so good, Vishnu is only good. Shiva externally is doing that, but what is he doing it for? As great seva, such selfless service for Vishnu. He is also exalted personality, but he is acting like a menial servant for Vishnu. Everything that he does, elevating all these people is for Vishnu's sake, so that they will become Vaishnavas and go back home, back to Godhead. So that is why we should see the internal and not just external always. So Upavishtam dharmamayam brishyam brahma sanatanam naradhaya pravochantam prichate shrinvatam satham. He was seated on a straw mattress and speaking to all present, including the great sage Narada, to whom he specifically spoke about the absolute truth. The purport. The Lord was sitting on a mattress of straw, because such a sitting place is accepted by persons who are practicing austerities to gain understanding of the absolute truth. So he's setting an example for all tapasvis. In this verse, it specifically mentioned that he was speaking to the great sage Narada, a celebrated devotee. Narada was asking Lord Shiva about devotional service, and Shiva, being the topmost Vaishnava, was instructing him. In other words, Lord Shiva and Narada were discussing the knowledge of the Veda. But it is to be understood that the subject matter was devotional service. Another point in this connection is that Lord Shiva is the supreme instructor and the great sage. Narada is the supreme audience. Therefore, the supreme subject matter of Vedic knowledge is bhakti or devotional service. They will not be beating around the bush. Both are excellent devotees. So naturally, they'll only talk about Krishna and how to serve him and all the intricacies of that. To whom he specifically spoke about the absolute truth. Absolute truth is what? Is just complete surrender and love for Krishna. So they were talking about that. Kritvorau dakshine savyam padapadmam cha januni bahum prakoshteksha malam asinam tarkamudrayam. His left leg was placed on his right thigh, and his left hand was placed on his left thigh. In his right hand, he held Rudraksha beads. This sitting posture is called Virasana. Left leg is put on his right thigh, and the right leg is below. And his left hand was placed on his left thigh. In his right hand, he held Rudraksha beads. This sitting posture is called Virasana. Virasana. He sat in the Virasana posture, and his finger was in the mode of argument, like this, with his finger. The sitting posture described herein is called Virasana according to the system of Ashtanga Yoga performances. In the performances of yoga, there are 8 divisions such as Yama and Niyama, controlling, following the rules and regulations, then practicing the sitting postures, etc. Besides Virasana, there are other sitting postures such as Padmasana and Siddhasana. Practice of these asanas without elevating oneself to the position of realizing the supersoul Vishnu is not the perfectional stage of yoga. Lord Shiva is called Yogeshwara, the master of all yogis, and Krishna is also called Yogeshwara. Yogeshwara indicates that no one can surpass the yoga practice of Lord Shiva. And Yogeshwara indicates that no one can surpass the yogic perfection of Krishna. Another significant word is Tarka Mudra. This indicates that the fingers are opened and the second finger is raised, along with the arm, to impress the audience with some subject matter. This is actually a symbolic representation. Even Prabhupada, some of his deities are in that Tarka Mudra. He's holding his finger like this. So he's instructing. He sat in the Virasana posture and his finger was in the mode of argument. Tam Brahma Nirvana Samadhim Ashritam Vyupashritam Girisham Yoga Kaksham Salokapala Munayo Manunam Adhyam Manum Pranjalya Pranemu. All the sages and demigods headed by Indra offered their respectful obeisances unto Lord Shiva with folded hands. Lord Shiva was dressed in saffron garments and absorbed in trance, thus appearing to be to the foremost of all sages. In this verse, the word Brahmananda is significant. This Brahmananda or Brahma Nirvana is explained by Prahlad Maharaj. When one is completely absorbed in Adokshaja, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is beyond the sense perception of materialistic persons, one is situated in Brahmananda. It is impossible to conceive of that existence, of the existence, name, form, quality, and pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because he is transcendently situated beyond the conception of materialistic persons. Because materialists cannot imagine or conceive of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they may think that God is dead, but factually he is always existing in his Satchidananda Vigraha, his eternal form. Constant meditation concentrated on the form of the Lord is called samadhi, ecstasy, or trance. Samadhi means particularly concentrated attention. So one who has achieved the qualification of always meditating on the personality of Godhead is to be understood to be always in trance and enjoying Brahma Nirvana or Brahmananda. Lord Shiva exhibited these symptoms, and therefore it is stated that he was absorbed in Brahmananda. Another significant word is Yoga Kaksham. Yoga Kaksha is the sitting posture in which the left thigh is fixed under one's tightly knotted saffron-colored garment. Also, the words Manunam, Adhyam are significant here because they mean a philosopher or one who is thoughtful and can think very nicely. Such a man is called Manu. Lord Shiva is described in this verse as the chief of all thinkers. Lord Shiva, of course, does not engage in useless mental speculation, but as stated in the previous verses, he is always thoughtful regarding how to deliver the demons from their fallen condition of life. It is said that during the advent of Lord Chaitanya, Sadashiva appeared as Advaita Prabhu, and Advaita Prabhu's chief concern was to elevate the fallen conditioned souls to the platform of devotional service to Lord Krishna. Since people were engaged in useless occupations which would continue their material existence, Lord Shiva, in the form of Lord Advaita, appealed to the Supreme Lord to appear as Lord Chaitanya to deliver these illusioned souls. Actually, Lord Chaitanya appeared on the request of Lord Advaita. Similarly, Lord Shiva has a sampradaya, the Rudra Sampradaya, is always thinking about the deliverance of the fallen souls as exhibited by Lord Advaita Prabhu. Actually, Advaita Prabhu is Sadashiva. He and of course Mahavishnu together, but it is not mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita at all. That is why I'm very sad. I don't know, they don't mention only that. I don't know why Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami didn't mention. We only know from reading in Bhagavatam and all that from Prabhupada that he is Sadashiva and Mahavishnu. I don't know why. He only calls them as Mahavishnu. That in all the tattva that we are studying Chaitanya Charitamrita, you see, when Advaita Acharya not at all mentioned. Anyway, but we know now Prabhupada is saying that he is Sadashiva, and it's mentioned elsewhere how it happened. Sadashiva was feeling so sad for the people of Kali Yuga. What will happen to them now Krishna is gone? So he thought, I'm going to do tapasya for 800 years, and then I will please Mahavishnu and ask him, how to deliver these people and all that. And when he sat down, Mahavishnu appeared before him. What are you doing? He said, why are you doing this tapasya? He said, no, I wanted to please you. He said, what is this? You and I are non-different, Advaita. And he embraced him and he said, let us go together. So that is why they are together in that form as Advaita. Advaita, they're not two, they're the same. So he's always thinking about delivering all the fallen people. That's why we should take advantage. And Advaita Prabhu is also very special because he is Shiva. So we can pray to him also very much about removing our ahankar and giving us a lot of bhakti and helping us because he's easily pleased. And Lord Chaitanya came on the request of Advaita. Similarly, Lord Shiva is a Sampradaya, Rudra Sampradaya. So always thinking about the deliverance of the fallen souls as exhibited by Lord Advaita Prabhu. Satupalabhyagatam Atma Yonim Sura Suresh Abir Vadantingri Uttaya Chakre Shiraz Shirasabhivandanam Arhatama Kasya Yataiva Vishnu. Lord Shiva's lotus feet were worshipped by both the demigods and demons. But still, in spite of his exalted position, as soon as he saw that Lord Brahma was there among all the other demigods, he immediately stood up and offered him respect by bowing down and touching his lotus feet, just as Vamanadev offered his respectful obeisances to Kashyapa Muni. So Shiva is more exalted than Brahma, but because Brahma is his father, he appeared from him, he is showing this. Kashyapa Muni was in the category of the living entities, but he had a transcendental son, Vamanadeva, who was an incarnation of Vishnu. Thus, although Lord Vishnu is the supreme personality of Godhead, he offered his respects to Kashyapa Muni. Similarly, when Lord Krishna was a child, he used to offer his respectful obeisances to his mother and father, Nanda and Yashoda. Also, at the Battle of Kurukshetra, Lord Krishna touched the feet of Maharaja Yudhishthira because the king was his elder. It appears then that the personality of Godhead, Lord Shiva, and other devotees, in spite of their being situated in exalted positions, instructed by practical example how to offer obeisances to their superiors. Lord Shiva offered his respectful obeisances to Brahma because Brahma was his father, just as Kashyapa Muni was the father of Vamana. So we can understand their consciousness, how much they are in a service mode, and so they are able to perform all the etiquettes properly. If they are even little bit sense gratification in the mode of sense gratification or a little puffed up, then they will think, why should I do? And I don't need to do. Now I'm independent. I don't need them. All these sort of feelings. But here, Shiva, he is okay. He's giving his respects to Brahma, even though he's only a living entity, but he's treating him as his father. Um, Something I wanted to say about offering. Yeah, this. And such a person as Shiva, who's so humble and always knows how to perform proper etiquettes and all that. This Daksha, what an idiot he was. He he got angry with him and he thought that he was insulting him. Such a person like Shiva. Tatapare siddha gana maharishibir ye vai samantad anu nila नीललोहितं नमस्कृत प्राह शशाङ्कशेखरं कृत pranamam prahasan ivatmabhu. All the sages were sitting with Lord Shiva, such as Narada and others, also offered their respectful obeisances to Lord Brahma. After being so worshipped, Lord Brahma, smiling, began to speak to Lord Shiva. But Lord Brahma was smiling because he knew that Lord Shiva is not only easily satisfied, but easily irritated as well. He was afraid that Lord Shiva might be in an angry mood because he had lost his wife and had been insulted by Daksha. In order to conceal this fear, he smiled and addressed Lord Shiva as follows. Imagine what a great injustice has happened to Lord Shiva. First of all, insult by Daksha, and his wife is killed. And still he is sitting in that pose, completely undisturbed. That is Lord Shiva. Who can be like that? Later on, of course, he will express his sorrow and his deep affection for Sati. And these people are going there to beg for what? Daksha's life. He's insulted him so much. He has been the cause for his wife's death. And they're going to appeal to him to save Daksha. And they can only hope only with Lord Shiva that he'll oblige, because he's that kind of a person, so selfless. Uh, all the sages were sitting with Lord Shiva, such as Narada and others, also offered their respectful obeisances to Lord Brahma. After being so worshipped, Lord Brahma, smiling, began to speak to Lord Shiva. It was very unreasonable, their demand, but I mean, you cannot, it's grave injustice, and none of them did anything on behalf of Lord Shiva. Just imagine, nobody protested that why you're doing like this to Lord Shiva, why you're trying to stop all the offerings, why are you insulting him by not calling him? Nobody opened their mouth. Of course, not that, or maybe Brahma tried telling him and he didn't listen. Might be that is the case. Even Vishnu must have told him and he didn't listen. And to such a person, they're coming to appeal. Brahmo vacha jane tvam isham vishvasya jagato yoni bijayo sakte shivasya cha param yattad brahma nirantaram. Lord Brahma said, "My dear Lord Shiva, I know that you're the controller of the entire material manifestation, the combination father and mother of the cosmic manifestation, and the supreme Brahman, beyond the cosmic manifestation as well. I know you in that way." Although Lord Brahma had received very respectful obeisances from Lord Shiva, he knew that Lord Shiva is in a more exalted position than himself. Lord Shiva's position is described in Brahma Samhita. There is no difference between Lord Vishnu and Lord Shiva in their original positions. But still, Lord Shiva is different from Lord Vishnu. The example is given that the milk in yogurt is not different from the original milk from which it was made. So, because he is non-different from Vishnu, he is saying that you're the controller of the entire. Of course, he also, material manifestation, he and Durga, the combination father and mother of the cosmic manifestation, and the supreme Brahman, beyond the cosmic manifestation as well. I know you in that way. He is, after all, Vishnu Tattva also. Tvam eva bhagavan etat shiva satyo shaktyo swarupayo vishvam srijasi pasi atsi kridan urna pato yatha. My dear Lord, you create this cosmic manifestation, maintain it, and annihilate it by expansion of your personality, exactly as a spider creates, maintains, and winds up its web. In this verse, the word Shiva Shakti is significant. Shiva means auspicious and Shakti means energy. There are many types of energies of the Supreme Lord, and all of them are auspicious. Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara are called Gunavataras, or incarnations of material qualities. In the material world, we compare these different incarnations from different angles of vision. But since all of them are expansions of the supreme auspicious, all of them are auspicious. Although sometimes we consider one quality of nature to be higher or lower than the other. The mode of ignorance or tamoguna is considered very much lower than the others. But in the higher sense, it is also auspicious. The example may be given herein. that the government has both an educational department and criminal department. An outsider may consider criminal department inauspicious, but from the government's point of view, it is as important as the education department. And therefore, the government finances both departments equally without discrimination. Very nice analogy. That Shiva is in charge of mode of ignorance doesn't mean that he is in Tamoguna. He's got that department. So he is equally treated with the others. He is not of that guna. He is only in charge of that guna. Tvam eva dharmartha dugapi battaye dakshena sutrena sasarjitadvaram त्वय्यैव लोके अवशिष्टाश्च सेतवो यान् ब्राह्मणा श्रद्धदधे धृतव्रताः. My dear Lord, your Lordship has introduced the system of sacrifices through the agency of Daksha, and thus one may derive the benefits of religious activities and economic development. Under your regulative principles, the institution of the four Varnas and Ashramas is respected. The Brahmanas therefore vow to follow the system strictly. So Shiva has introduced the system of sacrifices through the agency of Daksha. All the yajnas are introduced by Shiva through Daksha, and Daksha thinks he is better than Shiva, and now I'm not going to give him any share. I will decide. Under your regulative principles, the institution of four Varnas and Ashramas is respected. That is also given by Shiva. The Brahmanas therefore vow to follow this system strictly. Purport. The Vedic system of Varna and Ashrama is never to be neglected, for these divisions are created by the Supreme Lord himself for the upkeep of social and religious order in human society. The Brahmanas, as the intelligent class of men in society, must vow to steadily respect this regulative principle. The tendency in the age of Kali to make a classless society and not observe the principles of Varna and Ashrama is a manifestation of an impossible dream. Destruction of the social and spiritual orders will not bring fulfillment of the idea of a classless society. One should strictly observe the principle of Varna and Ashrama for the satisfaction of the Creator. For it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita by Lord Krishna that the four orders of the social system, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, are his creation. They should act according to the regulative principles of this institution and satisfy the Lord, just as different parts of the body all engage in the service of the whole. The whole is the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his Virat Rupa or universal form. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudras are respectively mouth, arm, abdomen, and legs of the universal form of the Lord. As long as they are engaged in the service of the complete whole, and their position is secure. Otherwise, they fall down from their respective positions and become degraded. So this was a very major reason which Arjuna told Krishna that war should not be fought, because all the men folk will be killed, and then the women will be left without any support, and then they'll be exploited by men, and then all unwanted progeny will happen. And then those unwanted progeny, because they will not follow all Varnashrama. If you're not following the system and just having affairs and then get children out of wedlock and all that, what samskara will you give? No Varnashrama. And then the society will be completely degraded. Arjuna already said this. This is what will happen if we don't follow Varnashrama. And that is what is happening. I don't know. But when the British came and they were introducing this, of course, they didn't have a choice. Brahmanas couldn't do anything because they just used their military force to push, and our own people were working. Who's that military? Military consists of Indians only, all just for the sake of money. They joined the police force, they joined their army. And imagine, they were fighting or punishing their own fellow men. So we had no strength. If everybody had really felt, no, our culture should not die, and then they all in one voice, if they had fought against the British long ago, they would have disappeared from this place. Look at the Israelites, Jews, how much united they are to keep their religion alive. Wherever they may go, they're very, very careful to preserve their religion. Our Hindus are the worst. For the sake of money, they will sell their religion. Drop of a hat. They don't care. Only my maintenance is important. Then, so for that sake, so many Indians were the biggest traitors. The Hindus were the reason for our being under British rule for so long. Otherwise, they were outnumbered. They were traitors, and every time some people planned, especially the armed rebellion, so many, patriotic people who were so selfless, and they were planning so many things with weapons. They didn't believe in Gandhi's. I mean, they believed in, you know, uniting, fighting for the country, but they thought that this is not the method. There's okay. I show me my other's cheek also. You hit me and kill me, but still, I will not protest. And then you expect such eighth class people like the British, total savages, for them to be inspired by all this noble thing. Oh, you hit me, you're only hitting my body, but my soul will never accept. Go away. And saying like this, they didn't care. They just laughed and they just mocked. And then that was not the reason for the British to leave, because they're just savages. The way they, all kinds of, I mean, in our history books, we are not taught all this at all. Atrocious, barbaric men. And with such people, you go and tell that, okay, you keep hitting me. And so, anyway, that is not what Bhagavad Gita teaches anyway. And so, all these people, they made many plans to go and attack the British. They were successful a few times, but every time they had a big plan, somebody would be a traitor and go and tell the British. And because of that, they would be caught and punished and hung. So this is the kind, our great heritage, how we don't have, just for sake of money, we'll do anything. That's what. Tam karmanam mangala mangalanam kartusva lokam tanushe param va amangalanam cha tamishram ulbanam viparyaya kena tad eva kasyachit. O most auspicious Lord, you have ordained the heavenly planets, the spiritual Vaikuntha planets, and the impersonal Brahman sphere as the respective destinations of the performers of auspicious activities. Similarly, for others who are miscreants, you have destined different kinds of hells which are horrible and ghastly. Yet sometimes it is found that their destinations are just the opposite. It's very difficult to ascertain the cause of this. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is called the Supreme Will. It is by the Supreme Will that everything is happening. It is said, therefore, that not a blade of grass moves without the Supreme Will. Generally, it's prescribed that performers of pious activities are promoted to the higher planetary systems. Devotees are promoted to the Vaikunthas or spiritual worlds, and impersonal speculators are promoted to the impersonal Brahman effulgence. But it sometimes so happens that a miscreant like Ajamila is immediately promoted to the Vaikuntha Loka simply by chanting the name of Narayana. Although when Ajamila uttered this vibration, he intended to call his son Narayana, Lord Narayana took it seriously and immediately gave him promotion to Vaikuntha Loka, despite his background, which was full of sinful activities. Similarly, King Daksha was always engaged in the pious activities of performing sacrifices. Yet simply because of creating a little misunderstanding with Lord Shiva, He was severely taken to task. The conclusion is therefore that the supreme will is the ultimate judgment. No one can argue upon this. A pure devotee, therefore, submits in all circumstances to the supreme will of the Lord, accepting it as all auspicious. Tattenukampam susamikshamaну bhunjana evatma kritam vipakam hridvag vapurbir vidadhan namaste jiveta yo muktipadesa dayabak. Bhagavatam 10.14.8. The purport of this verse is that when a devotee is in a calamitous condition, he takes it as the benediction of the Supreme Lord and takes responsibility himself for his past deeds. In such a condition, he offers still more devotional service and is not disturbed. One who lives in such a disposition of mind, engaged in the devotional service, is the most eligible candidate for promotion to the spiritual world. In other words, such a devotee's claim for promotion to the spiritual world is assured in all circumstances. So going back to God, it is not easy. We have to pass many tests. Then when somebody is not disturbed, even whatever calamity situations also, he takes that Krishna is just giving me a small token of what I should be actually getting due to my past very bad activities. And he does more devotional activities. Why? So that, he can get rid of all that, get rid of his sinful reactions and purify himself. And one who lives in such a disposition of mind, engaged in devotional service, is the most eligible candidate for promotion to the spiritual world. In other words, such a devotee's claim for promotion to the spiritual world is assured. Daya Bak means, Daya is who? Daya, these we call forefathers, right? So, just like we inherit um, the wealth and property of our forefathers, in the same way, one who accepts whatever Krishna gives and just continues with devotional service, then he becomes Dayabak, means he's eligible to inherit this Vaikuntha world, because Krishna is our father and it is our right to go back to Godhead, Dayabak. So that is so everything is set up by Shiva as the expansion of Krishna, because it's ultimately the same one God. We forget that there is only one God and he has expanded himself. And Shiva is also another expansion of Vishnu. And we should see him in that way. Then we can really appreciate him in this thing like Brahma is doing. Brahma is glorifying him, that he is all whatever Krishna is doing, he is telling, he is also doing, because he is not different from him. And also that only Krishna is the best judge, what we should get, what we should not get. Sometimes we may be disturbed. I'm doing all good things only. Why Krishna is only punishing me? It may happen. For everyone, it happens. Sometimes we feel it's unjust what is happening. But then we should know from all this that Krishna, everything he's doing only for the purpose of purifying us for our own benefit. So better to undergo it now only and be done with it. Because if we keep on getting only good things, first of all, good karma is getting reduced, and we are just postponing. Suffering for our sinful reactions will come. Better you get it first only, so that we can reduce it to the minimum by doing devotional service. Then after the purification, all good things will come. So it's actually very good that first we suffer and then enjoy. Other than materialistic people, they first enjoy and then they have to suffer. That is this thing. Normally, devotees in the beginning, they'll go through a lot of purification and all that. They have to struggle, fight, meet with all obstacles. After that, it will be very nice. just like the Pandavas also, beginning so much of suffering and trials they had to face, but at the end they were the victors. So that is, I mean, okay, they are so such top class devotees. Krishna can give such difficult tests. He will give only according to, we will not be tested like Pandavas, uproot you from the kingdom and then, go in the forests and all kinds of difficulties. And then the whole family is only trying to plot you to kill all the time. What kind of trials? But through all that, they had complete faith and dependence on Krishna. That is the constant thing. Whatever may happen in our life, in happiness or distress, the one thing constant is, I'll always take shelter of Krishna and I will do exactly as he says. That is the source of happiness for the Atma. In fact, Sanjaya, when he is telling Dhritarashtra, the last verse or the second last verse of the Bhagavad Gita, he says, thus have I heard the conversation between two great souls. And by remembering that, I'm feeling thrilled at every moment, every step. I'm feeling thrilled. He's feeling thrilled because the essence of Bhagavad Gita is that we have to surrender to Krishna and follow his instructions, always meditate on him, and do all work for his pleasure and satisfaction. That will give us the thrill and the happiness. And then everything will be fine because we are following Krishna's instructions completely. Everything, whatever we do is yajna. We don't know what a devotee will do. We can never predict because he is under the control of Krishna. So that's why you should never criticize Vaishnavas because we don't know. And we can never predict what Krishna will make a devotee do. So only thing we should see is he surrendered to Krishna? If he is, then stop judging him because that's it. Krishna may make him do anything. And okay, start. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments? And I think Avyay Prabhu, you have something to share?
Yes, yes, Mataji. So I have a question, Mataji, then I will share. So here, Lord Brahma is saying, Shiva, that you are the supreme Brahman, and he's also saying like you are the creator, maintainer, and then you annihilate. And then also saying that you are the ardent Vaikuntha planet. So whatever way Brahma he like glorifies Krishna, same way he's doing to Shiva. So is that because Shiva and Lord Krishna are non-different? That's why he's glorifying this way, Mataji.
Yes.
Okay, okay, Mataji. Thank you. So I'll stop recording here now and then.